Welcome to another edition of Real Spit from a Gangsta Gone Legit. Before we get started, I'm going to need you to hit that like and smash the subscribe button. Today, we have a special guest and a special edition. We have none other than Sean Ellis. What's up, brother?
Peace, family. How you?
Oh, man, I'm good, man. I'm glad you finally made it to get on this platform.
It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, man, and now we made it happen. I'm glad.
Right.
So, look, let's get right to it, man, and let's let the people know who's Sean Ellis, a.k.a. Stutter.
Yeah. So Stutter was, a little boy that grew up with a real bad speech problem. And he was kind of created as like an alter ego to protect Sean, because as a young person, like, Sean was picked on as a result of having that real bad speech problem. So Stutter came about as a protection, especially after the death of my older brother. So yeah.
So you lost your older brother at a young age?
Yeah. I was 8 years old. My older brother died. He was 12.
Wow.
He they said that he drowned. But the jury's still out on that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it was rude accidental death.
Yeah.
Okay. And so where did you grow up at?
I grew up in Rosendale, in the Asheville projects. A single parent. But I had one of those houses that was two houses kind of made into one, so I kind of had a mansion in the projects.
A mansion in the project. I like that. I think I'm familiar with that. Is that what they call like a breakthrough or something like that?
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Okay, so you had a bunch of rooms.
Yeah, we had either like 6 or 8 rooms in the projects and 2 bathrooms.
Keep going.
Yeah, like six rooms in the projects, like 8 rooms. But like I said, it was like a mansion in the projects. It was something that we were proud of at the time. But
Okay, so this is Archdale. This is Rosendale, right?
Right.
And did you also hang out in Boston, or did you eventually move to Boston?
Nah. So Archdail's part of Boston. What happened is that my older brother died when I was around 8. So when I was around 11 is when my mom moved from Dorchester. She moved from Rosendale to Dorchester. And that's kind of where things changed.
Okay, when you say things change, what do you mean by that?
So contrary to popular belief, it's like in the projects, it's like everyone knew my family, everyone knew my mother, and so it's kind of like she kind of had the village in the projects.
Gotcha.
But when we moved to Dorchester into a 2-family home, it was just our little family, and my mom happened to keep eyes on her children, which she wasn't able to do, because she didn't have the support she had in the projects.
So in the projects, it was more of a family thing where the neighbors were like your extended aunts and your extended cousins and uncles. Is that what it was?
Right.
I get it.
I remember times where we might have run out of butter or run out of sugar, and she would send us down to the neighbor and say, "Listen, go ask Elaine that she have any sugar or whatever," and it was never a problem.
Right.
And then that type of relationship was reciprocated.
No,
So,
I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said early on your brother passed, and if I'm not mistaken, that changed your life, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It changed my life. Me and my older brother was close. Like I was 8 years old, and one of the fondest memories that I have with my older brother was, us climbing on top of a dresser and jumping from the dresser to the bed like Jimmy Fly Snooker. We used to do this and then just jumping. Yeah, right. That's kind of like my biggest memory that I hold on to. You know what I mean? But it's like my older brother was like my protector. You know what I mean? Like he, when I would aggravate my mom, even as a child, what I'm saying? Like he would come and get me whenever she would start yelling and just going off, because she'd be cooking or whatever, and I would be in the way, and so he was who I looked up to.
I got you.
I got you.
So tell me, this is I'm sure this was going to be a hard question, but I definitely want to get clarity on it. Your mother was addicted to drugs growing up. So how was that growing up, knowing that that she was addicted to drugs? How was that for your life? Like, what did it do for you?
I mean, it hurt me. And I'm not even sure that I fully processed it. Like, even as a grown man, I know that one of the biggest things for me at the time was the perception of what I seen in the community with people who had a chemical dependency. And so when I would see them, I would say, this isn't my mom, but my mom has the same sort of dependency or a similar dependency. And so, I was torn, I was conflicted. And so, that it bothered me then, and to some degree, it still bothers me to this day that she went through that. But, everybody has to bear their own cross, and I love my mom. And my mom was one of very few people, and I can count on one hand, not including my thumb, the people who stood by my side day for day, with my experience. And so, despite her chemical dependency, the love and the commitment and the loyalty just remained there,
Well, your mother was a hell of a woman, from what it sounds like. And to set the record straight, the only reason she got that drug problem was because the loss of her son was too much for her to bear. Is that right?
Right. Like, so my mom, man, at one point in her life had 2 jobs. Even though we lived in the project, she was thriving. You know what I mean? Like, it isn't like I grew up as a child without food in the house, right, and just baking soda in the refrigerator. Like, it wasn't that sort of reality. You know what I mean? But when my older brother, man, died, it took a toll on her, and then the quality of her life just began to go down. And so when you deal with addiction, that's a beast unto its own self. And so, right, it took years for me to realize the effect that it was having on her. But I came to the point in the age where I was kind of able to see it, and that's when it really started to impact me.
I got you, Sean. I want to take you back to that dreadful night in 1993.
Order, shot fire, officer down, shot fire, officer down. Got a city officer down, shot fire.
When going to Walgreens to buy diapers ended up changing your life forever. Let's take them back to that. This is a night where a Boston police officer, well, this is real spit from the Gangsta Gone Legit, so we have to call it how it is. A corrupted Boston police officer was gunned down execution style. He was shot 5 times in the face. You were later charged and convicted for his killing, of which you did 22 years in prison, wrongfully convicted. I can't even sit here and act like I know how that would feel. And I'm sure the people out there couldn't imagine how it feels to be wrongfully convicted of something like that and have to lose that much of your time in prison. Why don't you let us know how that felt?
Man, there's so many feelings that come up around that. Some of it is fear. You know what I mean? But what that fear stems from is to really be followed. To be followed, because the police were sitting outside my house, just following me around. To be followed by the police is one thing, but then to have to endure the weight of the Commonwealth, is really inconceivable. It's you know, still kind of hard to process. But you know, it was that fear piece. There was that anger piece, but also the naivety. You know, I was very naive. It was not like you know, I was or I am some kind of seasoned criminal who has experience with the system. So, you know, when I was arrested, I was thinking that, you know, I'm going home, everything's gonna be good. You know what I'm saying, I didn't do this, so, you know what I'm saying, they're gonna figure out I'm gonna be able to get back to my life. Not knowing, not thinking that, you know, it was going to take 22 years of incarceration and still 28 years plus for me to because I'm still in the fight today for full exoneration and clear my name fully. But you know, that's one piece, and then emotionally, you know, even though the emotional detachment happened later on, the emotional detachment happened. And so I have an emotional part of me that's like damaged. And so when we speak about how I had to deal with it and how it felt emotionally, I'm still trying to plug back in. And so the ability to process it in its totality isn't necessarily there yet. But, you know, I definitely have my moments and those closest to me, you know, out of, you know, witnesses of that unfortunate reality where, you know what I mean, I go through my times where you know, I'm either having to relive or just dealing with it, you know.
So that leads me to this question. In prison, you have your inmates, you have your convicts. But I can't see how you fit in either one of those categories. So do you fit in those categories, Steve?
Yeah, so there's never been a day in my life where I've ever considered myself an inmate nor a convict. Because when you're in prison as an inmate, you're kind of brown nosing with your prison administration, the prison staff, and all that.
Right.
And that's something that I didn't do. That's something that I wasn't willing to do.
Right.
And a convict to me is somebody who, you know, live a life of crime and is duly convicted for the crime that they committed.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I never fit in either one of those categories. But I considered myself was a prisoner.
Prison.
You know what I'm saying? I was in prison. I was in prison and thus prisoner. But you know, I never operated in a space where I was kind of just going along with the prison culture and just trying to fit in and just, you know, be the hardest criminal. Like that isn't how I did my time. I'm saying, like I wasn't the toughest guy, you know what I'm saying, but I wasn't soft neither. I'm saying, like I was doing time, not my time, but I was doing time, and that time had to be done a certain way. But you know, I was mindful that the whole 22 years that I was in there that I was a prisoner, not a convict, and not an inmate.
And that's basically because you were being held against your will for a crime that you never committed.
Facts. And it isn't something that I tried to convince others of. It's something that I knew within myself, and so I didn't accept neither one of those two labels.
Now, for those of you that don't know, this is Sean Ellis. Sean Ellis was wrongfully convicted for killing a Boston police officer and sentenced to natural life in prison, of which he served 22 years before he was able to get another trial and get free. Now, the problem I have about that, also, they featured him on Netflix, and what was that called? Trial 4?
Trial 4.
Trial 4. One thing I learned by watching that was that you went through 4 trials altogether, right?
3.
Which went through 3 trials. 2 of them trials you were found it was a mistrial. The 3rd trial they found you guilty.
Right.
But my problem with that whole thing was who gets tried 3 times in 1 year?
Man. So to put a little context on that, right, is not just who gets tried 3 times in 1 year, because I don't know of anyone other than myself
That's ever happened to.
who that's ever happened to.
I know the law
Right.
very well, and I haven't
But
seen it.
it's we got to be mindful that I was a 21-year-old on trial 3 times in 1 year for a crime that I didn't commit. And then not only that, but I was also brought into court on Saturdays during jury deliberation. And you know, I remember one of my trials. It was during the Christmas kind of like time, and the jury was told that they got to come to court to deliberate on a weekend. And I remember saying to myself, like, man, yo, this dude, talk about the judge, like, this dude is really, man, he's really trying to get me smoked, man. But for some reason, I was still naive. Like, I still had it in my head, like, I'm going home.
And you held on to that.
And I held on to that.
Wow. You know, I had another question, but I want to jump into you holding on to that, because your belief, I don't know if it was faith or if you believed in God at the time or what it was, but that is what got you out here today. You wrote this famous letter to, let them know who you wrote a letter to.
Oh, man.
Well, let me say this before you say that. The letter I'm speaking of is the letter that got this man back out here right now. And to me, that was the best letter you could have ever written. Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely.
Let them know who you wrote that letter to.
That's the letter that saved my life. I wrote the letter to, you know, my attorney. You know, I take the position and I stand on his family. There's no other attorney that's better or badder than her. And when I say bad, it's like bad in a good way. You know what I mean? But Rosemary Scarpicio, you know, and there was 2 attorneys that I was looking at, and there was something inside of me. I believe in God. I don't believe in the mystery God. Like, I don't believe there's no ghosts and goblins just floating around in the air. Like, I believe in the true and living God. Okay. And so when I say there was something inside of me that I was being driven, I was being directed to her. And you know, I wrote the letter. I told her about my situation. I presented some, you know, the evidence that I had at the time. I presented that to her, and you know, I asked if she could help me, and she wrote me back. And I can't really go into everything she said because we have attorney-client privilege and stuff. But I, you know, she told me, she said, listen, I just finished getting this other guy out, Sean Ellis, and my desk is, you know, full. If you can wait for me to come see you, I'll come see you. And I told her that I'll wait. And it's not like I wanted to wait,
right?
But like I said, there was something inside of me.
Believed that it was going to be her. That if anyone could do it, she could get you out.
It was going to be her.
Gotcha.
And so I think it was at that point that I started to develop patience.
Definitely, and it paid off. It definitely paid off. Now I spoke to your attorney, and I found out that, you know, at the time when you reached out to her, she didn't want to see you wait. And I believe you waited another 18 months before she even could come and see you, right? Wow, that was definitely meant for you to wait for her to, because that was your turning point. And that's something in you that you felt that definitely was from God. You know? Okay, so let's bring some clarity to this case. First of all, this man was wrongfully convicted. You didn't do this crime. They had no evidence as far as eyewitnesses nor video footage, and they still found you guilty and sentenced you to natural life. And
I want to be clear. like, so I just want it known, like, because people think when you say life, it automatically comes with the possibility of parole. Right. But here in Massachusetts, life without parole took the place of the death penalty.
Right.
And so when they sentenced me to natural life, sentenced as a 21-year-old, they sentenced me to live the remaining days of my life in prison until I die, and my family would not obtain my body until it was in the box.
Wow. Wow. It's a blessing for you to be here, brother. Like I said earlier, I couldn't even imagine how you felt and what you were going through. And as we talked earlier, and you're still going through these feelings. Talk about that. Like,
so this case happened in 1993. We're in what, 2021? What's that, 28 plus years? And I'm still fighting to clear my name. And you know, there's gonna be a decision made Monday, just in a couple of days, which is gonna, you know, reveal whether or not the Commonwealth is going to assent to my motion for new trial, to as far as the weapons charges are concerned, or if they're gonna oppose it. And as it stands right here, right now, today, I still don't know what's going on with my life. And you know, today's the last working day of the week, you know, and it's like I'm gonna find out when the rest of the world finds out what's going on with my life, and to me that's the problem. It's like that's part of the problem with the system, because the system doesn't deal with the human, and you know, I can go on for days, man, about that, but man, it was just in 2018 where they did the exact same thing, where the former district attorney and the police commissioner Gross had a press conference, ran me through the mud, you know, lies, not wanting to accept, you know, the truth of the matter and the facts, and they didn't have the decency to tell my attorney what was going on, even though she was trying to find out what was going on. We found out, 2 to 5 minutes prior to the world finding out. And so it's what I'm dealing with now. Like, I'm reliving that all over again.
right.
You know what I mean? And so, you know, this is the whole trauma piece of it, you know.
How long have you been out now?
I've been out about five years, going on 6. But here goes the thing about that is, I might have a spurt of maybe months, it could be weeks, and I encounter something that I haven't encountered, and so it's as if I'm getting out like all over again, because it's a new experience. But what that does to me mentally, you know what I mean? It sets me back mentally, because now I'm like, yo, I should know this, but I don't know it because I was put in an unjust situation, so that, you know, I couldn't develop and evolve, you know, with technology and the rest of the world and the rest of the people. And so when I encounter something new, like I kind of beat myself up about it, you know, because I feel as though, like, I'm not a dumb dude, like I should know this stuff, but, you know, circumstances that I was dealt has precluded me from knowing it. So it's kind of like I keep getting out over and over again, over and over. Like, each time I experience something new, I'm getting out.
So basically, you're out physically, but mentally you're still not. You're going through it over and over in your head again and again.
Right.
Wow, that's deep, man. And that brings me to
like I remember when I first came home, me and my mom was going to the supermarket, and we had took the bus. It was my first time on the bus in more than 22 years, and there was like a street that looked kind of like an alley, but it wasn't necessarily an alley. And, you know, she wanted to turn down and walk down that street. It was a shortcut to the supermarket. And I remember asking my mom, I'm like, yo, can we go down here? And she was like, yeah, why? I'm like, that's not out of bounds. But that out of bounds came from prison
right.
Where you couldn't walk in a certain area because it was out of bounds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's it's stuff like that. Just you know what I mean.
Well, since you said that, so yeah, how much of prison do you still relive while you're out here now? Like, you know, we went through a lot of mental things in prison. Is the standing up for counts, the you know, like you said, out of bounds. So what else? I mean, like, are you able to? I'll give you a funny story right quick. I'm someone that when I'm sleeping, just anyone can't just stand over me or touch me or something like that. I jump right up, and it's, you know, it's that defensive mechanism, you know what I mean, that we get when we're locked up. So do you have any things like that you go through?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Wow. So, you know, well, one of the most embarrassing times is, you know, I was you know, asleep, in a place, you know, that's loving and peaceful, and my lady, you know, came just, you know, and I like, you want to give me a kiss or just wanted to touch my face or something, but it's my, you know, I responded in a way to defend myself, right? But it's not because I was sleeping, right? That's not what it. But it's because I was sleeping. But when I was in prison, you have to sleep on the edge. It's and I'm not really sure how to explain it beyond that. But even when you're sleeping, you can't be comfortable.
You're right. Right. You never get that comfortable sleep.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so that's one of the several things that like I go through now is you know, I sleep and I try to be comfortable, and I've gotten better. But you know, like when I responded and she was like, "Oh no," it's like I feel bad. Excuse me, like I feel bad, but at the same time, it's like you can't blame me. I was in an environment where, you know, like you're always playing defense.
Right. So when you were convicted of being a cop killer. How did that make your prison time? Did you get fucked with the police, the SEALs? Like, did they try to make it harder for you? Did they fuck with your food? You know, did they just do different things like that? Was you always finding yourself in a hole? Like, tell us how that was.
Yeah, so like particularly when I was at Nashua Street, is really what, you know, when they was really at me. You know, they didn't want to give me a runner's job. And when I tried to get a runner's job, just to be out my cell a little bit more, you know what I mean? Like, who wants to be caged in a cell? The CO didn't hire me, even though I was one of the longest kind of residents,
right,
if you will, in the unit. And so, you know, it's I'm not gonna bite my tongue. So I asked him, like, yo, why couldn't I get the runner's job? And his response was, I can't have a cop killer working for me. And I said, well, who said that I'm a cop killer? He said, well, that's what you're in here for. I said, listen, what happened to me, let me tell you how it relates to you. You're one phone call away from going on a date with a girl and she's saying that you raped her even though that you didn't rape her. What's going on with what I'm dealing with, anyone can be dealing with it.
Right. Same scenario.
The same scenario. So don't like kind of like don't come at me all that type of time. And you know, he later came to kind of respect how I approached it, because my thing is like, man, it ain't about being a super tough guy and but like man to man, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying, like I didn't do this. If I did it, then I'll be owning it and it be what it is, and I'll take what comes with it. You know what I mean? But you know, I'm not gonna allow for someone to mischaracterize me, and so you know that's how I did my time, and it was never really about me trying to be tough with CEOs and all that. But at the same time, it's like, yo, listen, you're coming at me, I'm not appreciating it, and so you know I'm gonna be a man about how I approach you and let you know how I'm feeling about how you're trying to single me out or give you know, treat me different by how you're treating the rest of the prisoners or the inmates or whatever they were calling it, just yourself. You know what I mean?
Well, let's talk about that. Did any of the other inmates, convicts, or prisoners, did any of them ever treat you different because of your charges?
I mean, I wouldn't say that you know they treated me different. Like they would be able to answer that question better than me. But what I do know, and what anyone who I did time with would tell you, is that I was consistent with the way that I did my time. Didn't matter, like, you know, who it was or who it wasn't. Like, you know, if there was anything, I'm coming to you as a man, and we're gonna, you know, deal with it in that way, and that was it, you know.
What was the biggest, well, not the biggest, but what was the most hurtful loss that you endured while you were locked up for 22 years?
Wow, man. So, you know, I'm gonna run down the losses, but one of the things that, you know, I still deal with to this day is, you know, before I got locked up, I got locked up coming from my cousin's funeral. Two of my cousins were murdered, and my younger cousin in particular, Celine, you know, my aunt, I think, characterized it best, saying that we was two peas in the pod. You know, to be living life without her, even to this day, as an adult, is hard. You know what I mean? But you know, while I was incarcerated, her mother died, who I was very, very close with. My Aunt Ray died, who I was very close with. My dad died when I was in prison, who I was very close with. My nephew died. My firstborn nephew died when I was in prison. My best friend died when I was in prison. A childhood friend died when I was in prison. My next door neighbor, who I was close with, you know, like, man, I remember growing up, we used to pass notes through the fence. But, you know, we ended up just getting cool, and she died while I was in prison. I suffered a lot of loss while I was in prison, and one of, you know, the biggest things, the most hurtful things, is because of the sentence that I was serving, I wasn't able to none of them go pay my closing respects. So
they wouldn't even let you go to your father's.
Not even my father's. And so it's I got all this hurt inside, and really no closure. I remember when my father died, it was around the time that the situation happened in Sandy Hook. And the ironic thing is that the prison administration allowed for the population to observe a moment of silence for the tragedy that happened in Sandy Hook, because it was a tragedy. And I remember saying, well, no, I'm not, like, I can't even go to my dad's funeral. Like, why would I go and observe a moment of silence, and I can't even go pay my respects to my dad? But I ended up going and took the opportunity to stand in solidarity for those who were recognizing Sandy Hook. But I took it for myself, for what I could obtain, even though it wasn't much, for some kind of closure, you know, for the loss of my dad. So.
Wow, that was a big loss, brother. And I'm sorry to bring that up if it brought old memories and pain, but, you know, this is definitely the Sean Ellis story, uncut, and we kind of want the world to know who you are, what you've been through, and where you're going. You know what I mean? On that note, are you satisfied with the depiction that Netflix has done with the trial for your story?
What I am satisfied about Trial 4 and the depiction is my fourth trial. That was my fourth trial. The Netflix fourth trial was my fourth trial. You know, but the corruption that was displayed, you know, they did a real good job in kind of delineating or showing kind of like the context or the backdrop of how I was railroaded and all that. But the corruption, there's more to it, and so there's definitely going to be more to come on that.
Come on.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely going to be more to come, because the 3 detectives that were mentioned, it didn't stop with them. There was people in high places that knew things or should have known things and allowed things to happen. That there will be more to come on that.
Okay. And we'll talk about that in future interviews, because I think I'm aware of a couple of things that you have in the works and what's going to happen, so that's good.
We can say that for like a part 2.
Part 2, there we go. Right, let's save that. The sweatshirt you're wearing, Wounded But Not Broken.
Yeah.
Let us know what that's about.
So Wounded But Not Broken, what it started with is the ordeal that I had to endure, the horror that I had to endure. I came out of it wounded, but I wasn't broken. I'm not broken. I'm wounded, even to this day, even as we're talking, I'm wounded, but I'm not broken. But when I really look at it and I really sit with it and I own it for what it is wounded but not broken isn't just isolated to those who are wrongfully convicted. Wounded but not broken, is something that is relatable to those who have been raped or molested as adults or as children. It's for the battered woman. It's for the battered men. It's for the child who suffered child abuse. It's those who have gone through things and has persevered to those things to come out on the other side. And even though there might not be the person that there was prior to the experience, they're still coming out on the other side, and they're still striving to be the best them and a better them, and not allow the situation to incarcerate them or to confine them and keep them like in that experience. So it's definitely wounded but not broken.
I like that. So that's a movement that you're pushing.
Right.
I like it. I want to take you back into no particular time frame, but just inside for a moment, right? And I want to talk about how Sean did his time. Like, what got you through? What was it that you did?
So one of the things that people tend to do when they come into prison is they want to come into prison. They want to establish their self. I'm not going to take no shit from nobody. I'm not going through all that. You know what I'm saying? So there was a phase of time in prison where I had to establish my identity in it. But the way that I did my time, I was in that law library on a regular, and when I wasn't in the library on a regular, I was working out. I would play a little ball. I started as a bum, ended up getting better as time went on.
I was gonna ask you, did you have game, man?
Man, I used to, when I first started playing ball, I used to shoot like this from behind my head, not able to aim the ball where the ball was going. I used to just let that thing fly, man. And there was a brother that I met. Really, man, there was a brother that I met while I was in there too, and kind of taught me some of the fundamentals about how to dribble my fingertips. And
so he knew how to play.
And he taught me how to shoot. And she's like, man, yo, hold the ball on the side, man, and shoot with your fingertips.
Right,
and so,
right.
you know what I mean? I ended up getting I was forced to be reckoned with in there, man, on that ball court, man.
It's funny you mentioned his name. We did an interview with Toot as well.
Yeah, Toot's definitely good people, man. And
so he taught you how to shoot, huh?
Yeah, he taught me how to shoot and taught me how to
see
dribble.
me and him do a one-on-one.
Yeah, well,
I used to shoot like that too.
What?
Bull. I used to shoot like that, man. And then I had, it's funny now I shoot right, but I did that too.
Yeah, man.
Dang, man, what is that?
Yes.
What is that?
Might want to get a team for the summer league.
Yeah, why not, right?
Yeah, 40 and over.
40 and over.
Yeah.
All right, so, okay, now, today, it sounds to me like Sean is free, physically, but nowhere are you free mentally. Not as far as, you still have to go through this next battle, right? And then, which you say is coming up on Monday. I think you're gonna knock that out too, though, brother. I really do.
It's funny that you say that, right? Because one would think that's how I should be feeling about the situation, right? But I have no trust in the system.
I'm sure, and you shouldn't.
And even if justice is done on Monday, even if the DA's office comes back and say, well, listen, we assent to the motion, we agree with Judge Ball, justice was not done in this case, and we agree with the SJC in saying that the evidence that we were able to obtain that was hid by the former DA's office, and they hid it for 22 years. And so even if they were to come and give me justice, in my mind, that is attributed to the people. That would be attributed, in my opinion, to the current DA, Rachel Rollins, and the director of the Conviction Integrity Unit, David Lewis. But that would not be reflective of the system. Because if it was reflective of this, I filed my motion in January. And I know that it takes time to, you wanna make sure that you're doing the right thing. But the fact that the fact that it's been 3 months now is really reflective of how the system works. And as Dr. King said, justice delayed is justice denied. And so because I'm still fighting to clear my name, it's been 28 plus years, right? And my motion has been sitting for 3 months, and the courts already stated what it is: justice delayed is justice denied. And so there may be good people who is not willing to cover up what's happened, and I don't know that they're not willing to cover up because they haven't made their position known yet. But I think it would be more about the people rather than the system, and the problem that black and brown people have experienced with the criminal law system is systemic and not individualized.
So let me ask you, does it end there? If Monday goes in your favor, is it all over?
No, it's not over.
Still not over.
It can't be over. It can't be over because I don't want no one to go through.
So you're going to continue to fight for others who are in jail that are still there unjustly.
It's in my heart. I don't have no choice but to continue to fight for those who are in prison unjustly and those who will come after me and will be in prison unjustly if I don't continue this fight. So it isn't about Sean Ellis no more. It isn't about Sean Ellis no more. It's really about black and brown people and how we've been victimized by the system, and it's time to stop.
Sean, I think it's fair to stop here at this point, and let's not give them too much more. Let's take that and save the rest for part 2. But before we do that, what would you say? I want to ask you a question about the streets first. The streets, I always say they love no one. What would you say to the young brothers out there today that are in these streets?
Wow. I take the position that, our young brothers and sisters who are in the streets, they're in the streets, looking for something.
Facts.
They're looking for something, and it's like fools, and it's like fool's gold, because you're in the street and you're looking for something, and it appears real, it looks real, it feels real, but at the end of the day, when it's just you by yourself in a situation, you're gonna see if it's real or not, and everyone who's been in it, who's been in the streets or has been in proximity to someone who's been in the streets is gonna tell you that indeed the streets love no one, but it isn't real at all. The street don't love no one, not even itself.
That's right. All right. Well, listen, this has been another edition of Real Spit from a Gangsta Gone Legit. This is a special edition, part 1, the Sean Ellis story untold and uncut. And we will have part 2 coming soon. Thank you, brother.
I appreciate you, bro.